Hello friends, welcome back. As we were talking in the preceding session about different quadrants and and we were trying to develop an understanding about that what is innovation. Is it a new product, a new service, a new usage, a new perspective? And then we tried to analyze that yes, sometimes it can be all, sometimes it can graduate from one quadrant to the other quadrant and so on. And the last portion which I deliberately kept for this session was in association with understanding what is a new product. And then we will be associating that understanding which we have developed around that what is marketing, what is innovation in terms of marketing, and how to look at marketing of innovations. I will be taking you towards the role of research in marketing of innovations. But I would be carrying this perspective of positioning all through this section of marketing of innovations now onwards, because somehow innovations have to have a very strong understanding in terms of positioning. You see, many a times you would realize that when we are talking of a new usage, it might get associated with a newer perspective as well. So, how to position it as a new usage or a new perspective? And if we do not keep that flexibility in terms of positioning, which is done primarily through communication, and then distribution also contributes and pricing also contributes and so on, then it would be difficult for us to extract that element and put up a new element if we are so fixed on one of the elements basically. And we have seen that in the case of several kinds of stories wherein products have been discontinued somehow. I do not know what happened with Google Glass. It could not be marketed well. We have talked about that in with respect to that they could not put it rightly in terms of unmet needs or unknown needs and so on. We talked about those kind of things earlier, and please revisit that session. But you see, somehow if we would have kept that flexibility in terms of as far as positioning of this product goes, then it might have been different. And you see, we also try to contemporarily compare several kinds of products, Alexa with some other contemporary product. What went wrong? Should we start thinking in terms of that? How did we have been talking about that how marketers should look at in terms of unmet needs or unknown needs or other elements with reference to the consumer or customer. But how should marketer look at it with their own perspective? That is also important. So, basically how you are positioning it right away, and then how you would be positioning it after a while when the usage graduates, when it evolves. And many a times marketers must understand, and many of you are marketers I presume, or would be marketers in times to come, that because it is an innovation, it is evolving. So, its usage might evolve, or the product itself might evolve because of some foreseen or many a times unforeseen technological changes and advancements which the product would go through. For example, the other day this small equipment, the mobile phone which we are carrying, graduates into something else basically because of some technological advancements which are continuously being taking place, because lot of energy is being spent on these kind of products by eminent scientists. And how it happens, we have talked about that earlier, but just briefly to mention that, for example, today when an industry, when a product, when a when an ecosystem is flourishing, so many budding students, I should not say specifically engineers, but technical know-how people and several other people, they start looking at themselves and their future lives with respect to a particular industry. For example, when computer era came in, whole lot of a world started focusing upon computer science and several other things which are associated with that. Today whole lot of an intelligent lot is focusing upon AI and data sciences. So, when this knowledge force starts evolving, it starts contributing into innovations or to propel innovations further. And when these innovations start propelling, then they might graduate in terms of usage perspective and services and products and so on. And if they have a fixed positioning, they might collapse. And if you will look into the historical data, you would realize that many products which vanish overnight from as far as the whole scenario goes, they might have gone through or gone for a very specific positioning. So, this we would keep on building around. Please keep this in mind, take notes about this, start reading about positioning once again. Contemporarily, we have been talking about positioning is creating an image of the product in the minds of the customers, but that image, should it be flexible? Should it have a scope of adding another image? That is another point which one must look into. Now, here comes the last part which I deliberately left in the last session, that marketing of innovation, is it the new product, and this is the fourth quadrant which we are talking about. So, while launching new products is one component associated with marketing of innovation, the term also refers to a wider range of activities involving the creation, positioning. You see, here we come with this specific term of as far as positioning goes. So, positioning, and then promotion of novel products, services and processes. So, positioning is an important element. Mitti cool clay refrigerators are traditional coolers made from natural clay and are designed to keep food and beverages cool without the need for electricity. The science was there. Mr. Prajapati actually used that science, went for innovating upon that science with reference to a product, converted that into a refrigerator without any electricity usage, and it became adaptable. Then several kinds of feedbacks and further researches, and gradually they took it to towards being a good usable product. They have several products now which have graduated from that science. So, you see, this is a new product, but then if we look at the original science and the kind of practices which people had earlier with mud or clay based utensils and equipment, then we may say that it is new usage actually, or let us say old usage with a newer perspective also, that can also be there. So, these kind of elements are there as far as the whole situation goes. And one more thing, when I think about Mitti cool kind of things, is that although it does not require much of a service, but reduction in terms of after sales service is also another graduation in terms of new kind of service basically. If you do not require my help so often, you would feel happy and independent because you have purchased the product, and I may be associated with you for assurance that I would be there if something comes up, but it is better that you do not think about me while using the product. So, that is another innovation or thought process associated with as far as the whole scenario goes. Now, Niramayi developed Thermilactics, an innovative breast cancer screening solution that uses thermography and artificial intelligence to detect breast cancer at an early stage. That is also there. Medical science, we have several such kinds of new products and new perspectives associated with as far as the whole scenario go, and there are Novo Nordisk is a very famous example which has been used in several kinds of textbooks, insulin injections we all know, and several other kinds of products are there wherein customers, they have become self dependent in terms of administering medicines for themselves at the time of usage and so on. Samsung introduced foldable smartphones which offer a new form factor by allowing users to unfold the phone into a larger tablet like screen and so on. And nowadays, if you will look at the current advertisement of Samsung foldable phones, you would realize that they have started positioning it with, or they have started gradually taking it towards a newer image of that phone for selfie purposes. Now, that selfie, when you took you take from that particular kind of a folded phone, that is very precise, sort of as they are trying to say, and here comes camera and selfie, although it is called a phone. What is it? Is it a phone or a camera or a selfie related camera and phone? Please decide by yourself. So, here I go with having this kind of a discussion around all the four quadrants and the association of these four quadrants as far as with each other goes, and some products which belong to all the quadrants as offerings in terms of being developing the complete ecosystem or connectivity amongst those kind of things. Having generated this kind of a thought with respect to marketing of innovations, let us go towards understanding what research says about marketing of innovations. How to conduct researches, what research thinks about as far as marketing of innovations go. Here we are using Griffin A, Josephson BW, Lillian G, Ware Sema F, Bayous B, Chandy R and Spanjol J, marketing's role in innovation in business to business firms, status, issues and research agenda, marketing letters, a good paper, and this paper gives us a clue in terms of how to look at marketing research in terms of as far as marketing of innovations go. So, they researched on marketing role in innovation and noted that field identified a lack of understanding of how the marketing function can or should best contribute to firms' innovation efforts. They identified, you see, they emphasize that understanding how the marketing of function can or should best contribute to a firm's innovation efforts. So, it is not about only marketing, how marketing should contribute into the firm's innovation efforts. That is precisely where marketing research, takes us to when we are talking of marketing innovation. How to associate the dots, how to look into things basically, how to understand the needs that we have started talking about since the preceding sections. So, they identified 4 themes which requires special attention from business world and academic field to propel marketing and innovation intersection further. You see, they are talking about marketing and innovation intersection. Now, it is important that while developing this frame, and they have talked about with specific kind of a sphere, we look widely with their conceptual underpinning and thinking towards almost all the products we have in our sites. So, they say that improving customer needs understanding and customer involvement in developing new products. So, how to improve customer needs and understanding while you are going for the development of the products. Now, you would remember the discussion we have had in co-creation of value and value co-creation, and customer involvement in developing new products, innovating beyond the lab. How to actually, you see, there have been set procedures, developing some products in labs and then going and prototyping and going to the field and then testing those products and coming back with reiterations and then reforming those products and so on. But then why not to start it at the earliest most stages, going for simultaneous research and feedback. Disseminating and implementing academic research in firms. People have started creating technology parks. IITs, they are initiating technology parks wherein they are specifically dedicating premises for wherein firms would come with their research acumen. Here academicians would be there, some research scholars and students would be there, and they would be jointly working on some aspects related to innovation, and some entrepreneurial efforts would also be simultaneously being done at the same place, so that the whole kind of a ecosystem can be developed. Germany, we have seen that, US, we have seen that, in almost every country they are propelling such kind of a situation, and India is very focused upon these kind of things, and they are aggressive on these kind of things. So, IITs, they have already created technology parks, and Indian Institute of Technology Roorkee is also about to do that in a very short span of time from now. So, marketing's overall role in innovation, these are the 4 elements wherein the authors talk about. So, let us try and unfold these in due course of time. Improving customers' needs understanding and customer involvement when developing new products. We have talked about new perspective, new product, and vice versa and in consonance with each other. Now, try and collate that understanding with as far as this input goes. The primary theme that surfaced, as the author says, from the research pertains to the involvement of customers in the innovation management process. Gathering, here G got missed, so I have written G. Gathering good needs information is especially critical in business realm, where good needs information is especially critical in business realm, where customers represent individual organizations whose needs or requirements cannot be readily simulated or understood using laboratory subjects. So, how to bring them on board, how to justifiably suggest that this is what you would be needing in future. You recall last sessions we have been talking about unmet unknown needs and those kind of elements. So, how to bring them on board, how to create a synergy. Whenever we talk about synergy, research uses these kind of things nowadays overwhelmingly with two elements: reflexivity and synergy. You can generate reflexivity if somehow you create mirror image with the respondents with you. That means thought processes, they reflect upon each other equally. How to generate that kind of a reflection is when you understand each other well, when you clarify your purpose well, and when you understand them with clarity, and you are on the same page with reference to your socio-cultural thought process, specifically vocabulary. If I say something, it is understood the same way I wish for that to be understood, and somehow when you say something as a researcher, it should reflect upon me without distortion. So, that kind of a reflexivity, and for further reading as far as reflexivity perspective goes, the best text I would subscribe to is reflexive methodology by Mats Elvison, a very intelligent professor in Sweden. So, that's kind of perspective. And synergy, when we are focused on upon the same thing, when we believe that yes, this is something what we want, and this is how things should come up, that is how this whole perspective evolves as far as the whole scenario goes. So, improving customer needs understanding, because this way only you would be able to actually understand the core of the needs basically. Sometimes many a times when you are asking questions to people, they always say and express that you are not understanding what I mean. Actually, you are not understanding what I mean. So, we have to understand the intent of the person also. We have to understand the meaning which should be derived from the person says, because many a times person is not deliberately going for a very categorical answer. The person is going for something which you should decipher the way person wants, because that is some linguistic socio-cultural perspective is there in association with whatever the person is expressing somehow. And there are many sensitive issues. For example, person is not that capable of expressing those things in terms of language barriers, or let us say mental or physical barriers, and so on. Several kinds of things are there, and for this you must look into how medical researches are being conducted with patients and different kinds of people and so on, how researches are being conducted with differently abled people who are unable to express themselves with because of some barriers and so on. So, that intensity has to be brought in for understanding the customer needs, the core of it, kind of what do I want actually. Now, when we say innovating beyond the lab, that is the second point which the authors are been talking about. So, firms must move at least some innovation activities beyond the R&D laboratory to create more breakthrough innovations and to increase customer satisfaction with the firm's offerings. There are two critical needs associated with changing the new product. Development processes used to help firms improve innovation of performance, that is one, moving innovation away from a product or service focus and towards a total solution perspective. We have been talking about this ecosystem analysis and ecosystem projection and ecosystem development and so on, what compositively it would do, and that is why I started preceding discussion with yoga, what compositively it would do. You see, it is very intelligent of several organizations to start with something which has a concentric value. Sometimes I visualize that organizations like Patanjali, they might have started with Ayurveda based products first and collating that with yoga. Many organizations, they have tried that, but then somehow they thought the other way, and that was intelligent of them to do that. They first inducted people towards yoga, included people towards yoga, and inclusive perspective was used, reflection was generated, a communication was generated, similar vocabulary was generated. When we are talking in terms of reflexivity and synergy, one thing which is very important, and I emphasized upon that as well just now, but linguistic universalization, similar vocabulary, interpretation has to be same. So, you see, moving innovation away from product or service focus and towards a total solution perspective has to have that concentric value. For example, when we say that you should be healthy, now what does that mean? Up till now we have found that people define health with their own perspective, as you like it, and then there are several elements which people do not know, that what is their body type. You see, health has been taken with a universal kind of a perspective. Every individual has an individualistic element associated with the uniqueness of that individual in terms of physical being, and many specialists, they understand that. So, they would prescribe the similar kind of a method which goes into consonance with as far as their individualistic health perspective goes, but that has to be deciphered for them while talking to them. You just can't say that all of us should do this. So, there are few elements which all of us should do, but then there are several individualistic elements which an individual's body would adapt to easily, and that is how this whole scenario comes in. Empowering the social network is as a source of innovation. And I talked about blue zones the other day. So, I hope you are watching these kind of things. Basically, there are several other documentaries on National Geographic and several kinds of platforms and Netflix and so on, and you would realize that as far as social network goes, that means all inclusive perspective, because when we are talking in terms of as far as empowerment of this social network goes, innovating beyond labs, and I would talk about one experiment which we were doing briefly. When I started going to forests in state of Uttarakhand, where I belong to presently, and we were thinking in terms of doing something about forest bioresidue. We were not sure that we would be converting that into low cost forest bioresidue based fuel, high efficiency fuel. So, when we were going to those people to talk to them, we also never knew that what kind of product we would bring in, and they had this least kind of an idea on that. So, there we started talking to people in groups while generating reflexivity and synergy first of all, and we started talking to them about with reference to a good life in their habitats. What do they consider as good life? And incidentally, that that thing started because once I started visiting them in their beautiful places in Himalayas, I realized that these are the places one should live in. I started actually thinking in terms of switching over my place of residence there, but you are earning bread somewhere, so just can't think of that. But then you see, once you go there and you realize that I should be here all the time, so then you realize that these people, they would also be having this kind of a feeling. That is why generationally they are staying there. And then the discussion broke that this is a place not to leave, and that is what precisely generated the first reflection. They said, yes, this is the place not to leave, but then what to do? There are so many things which have to be one has to resort to in terms of going to cities and those kind of places to gain access to so many kinds of services and things as far as the whole scenario goes. What can be the central point which can let them live there happily? Water is there, agriculture is quite self-sustainable, they know how to live a healthy life, they know the traditional methods and means. Energy, heat and energy, cooking energy, if can be there as a central point, then definitely they would live there happily in a self-sustained kind of a manner. And that became the central point of our discussion. And because I was already concerned with as far as what to do with the forest bioresidue which was there existing in our minds in terms of the problem, and which was the cause of forest fires which were happening rampantly over there in Himalayas. So, that question was already there, but that question suddenly started getting answers to in terms of if that forest bioresidue can be converted into a low cost source of energy which can be the product can be generated and produced by them, used by them and sold by them somewhere through a procedure which we may generate at the end of the day, and then this whole scenario might change. So, you see, social network perspective started evolving and everyone started contributing as far as the whole scenario goes. That became an effective kind of a procedure which we started introducing, and then a methodology evolved, and in our next rounds of discussions with different sets of people and similar sets of people many a times, that discussion started getting generated from that central point, and then we met thousands of people. And while collecting that knowledge, we came in, we started focusing on labs as far as the product development goes or the machine development goes, and then we started bringing those people on board in labs and then taking product at their places, and somehow a synergy got evolved in terms of innovating beyond the lab goes, and a product which was effective, the machine which was effective in terms of usage and output, in terms of as far as not only the product but the revenue associated with the product got evolved. And that is how it became a successful venture, and I am happy to share with you, and I would be talking about these examples later on as well. I am happy to share with you that that is not only a success story, that is becoming a commercially viable process now, which is being adopted by several Himalayan states, including Jammu and Kashmir and Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand, although in small numbers, but we are looking forward to a very large growth of this process. Almost every corner, wherever forest bioresidue can be utilized or is available, and it is huge in as far as the quantity goes. So, that is where innovating beyond lab goes, and you see it is a complex procedure, that is why I am emphasizing so much on that. And many a times when we are talking of such complex procedures, including people, as far as innovating beyond lab goes, we must believe one thing which is very important, that it has a large sphere, because once you are including people in large numbers while innovating beyond the lab, those people are not only your customers, but they are your brand ambassadors as well. They are the ambassadors of the processes and the procedures which would keep propelling whatever is getting developed, number one. Number two, their continuous feedback is the reason for the continuous evolution in terms of the process goes or improvement goes. Number three, there is an element of that you might have taken that as a as a process or a product with a different perspective, and their perspective might add to become a larger perspective. Then it might graduate towards a service in relation to that perspective, and service relation to a product and so on, and then it might graduate into an entirely new product, or some new product might evolve out of that as well. And that precisely happened. When we were actually focusing upon this kind of a process, one of the entrepreneurs, I call them entrepreneurs, champions. So, one lady, she came up with this idea that can we crush some fast growing grasses also to make them something, and then she did that experiment by herself, and she chopped Lantana camara and crushed that and made a briquette out of that. She knew through her own wisdom since ages, these kind of wise elements have been transferred generationally in every place sort of, and their area as well, that Lantana camara has a sort of a value which can be used as mosquito repellent as well, and it might not be so detrimental to the surroundings and so on. Several kinds of some good elements are also there and so on. So, that kind of a wisdom was already there, which was medically and medicinally also discussed in several kinds of researches and so on. So, this woman, she crushed Lantana camara, compressed it and used it as a mosquito repellent, and here comes the role of marketing. We immediately got this idea, we named that product as forest fragrance, we created a beautiful packaging out of it, created a put one candle and a stand for that mosquito repellent to be put there, created a description and some small booklet associated with the product, some manual associated with the usage of the product, some properties associated with the product, and some cautions and those kind of elements, and some mandatory compliances were sought by us, and then that product was marketed at local levels for tourists, and that became a very viable mosquito repellent, organic mosquito repellent. Lantana camara is very prevalent in India. It is called an invasive species, and we are still working on that, how to properly utilize it without any hazards or without any problems, and with its qualities and properties. We are scientifically researching presently on that. We are graduating from one stage to the other, and but that their marketing of innovation came in, and that actually became a more viable product as compared to for what we actually started the process. I will be coming back to you with lots of insights on the role of research in marketing of innovations next time as well. Till then, goodbye.